reminding me.
Nice.
Okay, I'm recording. Everyone cool?
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah. So last week we talked a little. Austin gave a little bit about mindset and how to get started and where to find clients and whatever. I kind of want to give you like a little more of like the nitty gritty details of how to land the clients. Pretty much everyone, except for a couple of you, are working on Upwork profiles. I know that Roman wants to try to find a way around Upwork, and that's definitely something we can do. But it doesn't matter whether you're on Upwork or not. There's always this question of, okay, how do I approach the client? How do I open a conversation? How do I close the deal, right? So I'm starting off with the biggest triggers of yes, I want to hire this guy / girl. Okay, so over the last from like June till September, I was coaching my girlfriend through getting started in copywriting, and she was able to land a big client just from purely mentioning that she had helped work with some big clients like Organifi and Paleo Hacks. Okay. What that actually was she helped me with some of the work that I had for them. I just had her write an email here or there. Okay. But that allows her to say something like, I work with Organifi and Paleo Hacks. Those are big names. Those are names that people are going to recognize. Sometimes it's as simple as saying that and boom, they want to hire you. Okay. That being said, you might be asking yourself, well, I can't say that. Well, you can now say, I've worked with the copy chief from Paleo Hacks, because that's me. I've worked with him on blah, 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 blah. Some of you can say, like, I work with Rick Caselge of Exercise for Injuries. Okay, I did some work for him. I did some work for Ning, the copy chief for Paleo Hacks. I did some work for Vita Rose Health, which is a menopause supplement company. They may not have heard of it, but it still sounds cool.
Yeah, and with the bigger ones, you can say, I mean, how big of a revenue company is Paleo Hacks, Ning? Like 8 figures?
Yeah, it's multi-million-dollar. It's somewhere under 20 mil.
Yeah, so it's good to add that in to give them some scope of the size of the clients.
Yeah, exactly. You want to think of number 2 right here. Like, you are a product and you're marketing yourself. So I want you to like think of like, you may be thinking to yourself like, oh, I didn't actually work directly with them, but you're not saying that. You're a copywriter. You can bend words to continue to say the truth, but you did work with me. You have worked on emails. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
That's not misrepresenting what you have or haven't done. So these are all things that are assets now to you that you may not have thought of. Okay. And they're valuable assets. Okay. Someone hears that you work with someone they know or that they have heard of, it instantly ups your cred immediately. Okay. So that's one thing. Name dropping. Like even asking them like, oh, have you worked with blah, 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 blah? Do you know blah, 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 blah? Already makes you sound like you're not this freelancer in his own world dungeon, like in the gutter. Does that sort of make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is just samples. If you can provide samples and they can look at them, that's always, no matter how crappy your samples are, that's always better than not providing samples. Actually, let me revise that statement. That's probably not true. In this coaching call, we're going to help you get good samples, and you're always going to want to provide them. Okay?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that this morning. So like after, there's going to be a time in working with you where we get to a point where we say, these are ready. Save these, publish these, upload these, whatever the case may be. It's going to be a final version.
Yeah.
At that point, put that into, make that look good in Google Docs. Bold your headlines, center them, add blue hyperlinks, make it look like you would present it to the client, and we'll show you how to do that. And then save it as a PDF and upload that PDF to a Google Drive folder titled My Name Samples, whatever your name is, and that will grow as we go through this program and even beyond that, to where you can send someone one link to the Google Drive, they can open up and see a whole folder of all your stuff saved in PDF format, tidy and nice, and not a Google or not a Word doc with comments all over it. So I think that's super important. And we'll show you ways to take it just a step above other people and, you know, add some like graphical elements, like adding photos with captions, stuff to make this look nice, like almost to the point where, you know, it would be on a real sales page. And that's something we do at the Dig Agency, where especially if we're pitching new ideas, we want it to look nice. We'll actually take the time to make the fonts, the design elements, and like as important as the words are, and they're 80% of it, like that 20% is the look of it, and that's important too. So anyway, Ning, continue.
Yeah, I'll just show an example. Like this is a page that I wrote that we're working on right now, and the way I delivered it on the Google Doc, I don't think I have actually the Google Doc on me, but it looks very similar to this. Like I make the headline.
Yeah.
I don't just deliver like a wall of text. So the formatting is important when you show it to the client. I guess that's just like a short thing. Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, go ahead, Austin.
No, I just say cool. Go on.
Yeah. The other thing is like these samples, you may want to, I would caution you against perfectionism. Like a couple of you guys, we've looked at your stuff and said, okay, cool, this is ready. Just finalize this and then make it look pretty and then store it or publish it or send it or whatever. Perfectionism has its time and place, but sometimes you just need sometimes done is better than perfect. Okay. So
most of the time it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we let you know, like, okay, this is good, let's move on to the next thing. That's what we want to do. If you spend too much time trying to perfect one thing, you're missing out on the opportunity cost of working on the next thing. So yeah. Any questions about this section right here?
Yeah, I'll say that the ready, fire, aim approach is going to serve you really well. One big thing we noticed out at Copy Chief Live, and James Schramko went into this in detail, is like you can make a sale, you can get to a point with a client or a business where you say, yes, I can do X for you. And you don't like, and then we talked with Jim a little bit about this, like the rules in this space are not the rules that govern normal careers. Like you can promise something and then literally figure out how to do it and deliver it on the time that you said you would, not knowing exactly how you'll get there at the time that you promised it. And that might sound terrifying. I mean, it definitely did for me. But a lot of the times I could see that, like, with enough research, I will be able to figure this out. You tell the client you can do it, and then you follow through and make sure you do a good job. And like, we can show you exactly how to do that. And just by hiring a coach, you're already in a good position to make those kinds of deals with people. So yeah.
When you tell the client that you can do it, but then do they
Yeah.
just take your word for it?
Well, I mean, you can make them, and I mean, you can remove the risk for them. You can say, hey, listen, like, I know this is our first time working together. My normal rate is, $1,000 for a sales letter, but I can do this, since it's our first time, I'll do it for $750. And, since it's also our first time working together, if you're not completely satisfied with the work, I'll give you a full refund. And here's the thing that probably also sounds scary, but most people, like, you can get a sense on the phone if they're a total shyster, and like I would use your gut instinct, but 99% of the time people are not gonna ask for their money back. And once you know you have to do a good job, like, I trust you guys will deliver. And yeah, you can do that. You can do that and go to a coach or go write for 20 hours straight and figure it out. But yeah, those, those opportunities are really a chance for you to stretch your limits and get out of your comfort zone. Cause like one of the big things is you gotta push the boundaries of like where you think you can go. Cause every one of you has more potential, and the way to find that is to stretch your limits and make offers that are a little uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be like I can do your whole launch package, 30 emails, like sales pages, videos, and like, don't go crazy, but all of you could do a sales letter. All of you could do an autoresponder sequence. So
I think what like I would boil it down to is like, we see tons of students, right? Austin and I have coached dozens of students at this point. If I could boil down how well or how much a student gets out of this program down to one thing, I would boil it down to like, here's you and here's the action you have to take. Okay? It's the action you have to take. In between that, there's barriers of like, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do it. Okay? All that's between here and here. The students that can just do the thing, whatever it is, as quickly as possible, as much as possible, do the next thing. Those are the students that do really, really well, even if they do the thing and fail. Okay? The students that have trouble getting started is they let all this stuff in between prevent them from doing the thing, whatever it is.
Yeah. And remember, the ground you're falling on is not covered in spiky sticks. It's like, it's literally where you are now. So there's really not a lot of risk to trying this stuff. I mean, if this client this never happens, by the way, if this client is like, this work is garbage, I need my money back, great. You give them their money back. And anybody who says that to you is an asshole you don't want to work with anyway. You dodged a bullet. So it's just kind of reframing this stuff and yeah, doing like new, and we'll show you what that thing is. And if you just keep doing it, you're gonna make huge leaps. So yeah, I think that was a cool point, Nate.
Yeah, the faster you can do the thing, the better you'll get, whatever the thing is. If it's a thing that you can feel in your gut is something you're supposed to do, but you're just not quite sure how to do it, or you're afraid to do it, or whatever it is, just put that all aside and say, okay, cool, whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to do the thing. If I fail, I fail.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, that, Austin, you may have missed this, but we were talking a little bit before the call. Tom was talking about a project and worried that, maybe it was more than he could do. And we all have those same kind of feelings. And we talked about that a little. And one of the things I heard from some to do all these things, you become an expert by doing all those things.
By doing them, yeah. It's a total paradigm shift. It's so true.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I have these own things in my own business where I'm like, I want to be, I want to have like the brand of Austin a little bit more than working just through gurus. And like that comes from me being more prolific and just writing every day to an email list. And like, by doing that, I'll get better. I don't like study how to become this email list expert and then do it. It comes through doing it. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I guess that's a little bit like paradoxical with the advice I gave Tom earlier, which is basically like, ooh, be careful doing that thing.
Yeah. Well, with JVs, like, yeah. Are you talking about the JV thing?
Yeah. But in general,
we'll get into that, but
yeah. In general, my advice is like, do the thing. But, I will give you warnings about, ooh, that thing might be a little, but that's never about like, like it's too scary. You're not good enough or whatever.
No, that's more of like a legal risk or a risk of not getting paid.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Which we want to make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay, cool. So, let's just get into like, I want you guys to be aware of like, when you're going to a client, you're going to understand your prospect. The client is the prospect. So think of this is just a sales interaction, right? So your client's biggest fears and objections is that this is all stuff that they most likely have already experienced. They most likely have already worked with a copywriter who's delivered something that they had a frustrating experience with. They've already probably worked with a copywriter who missed a deadline or something, or a copywriter who was just not nice and not a cool person to work with and didn't give them what they want. Okay. So when you understand that, you can think about, okay, how do I alleviate this fear for them? Okay. So one thing I teach a lot of people to either put on their profiles or include in their messaging somewhere is to have a checkpoint system. Okay. What's the checkpoint system? When you go to a client, you say, hey, look, I know that like one of the fears of clients is just that like I'll disappear for 4 weeks and deliver something that's just completely not what you're looking for. Okay. You say that, boom, you instantly have creds with the client because they're like, yes. You describe their problem, just like in a sales letter, right? And you can say something like, you know, so that's why I use this checkpoint system like this. Like, look, I'll do all the research for the project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an idea pitch just to make sure you're cool with the idea. Okay. I'm going to have you sign off on it. If you don't like it, I'll review the pitch. Okay. And do something else. I'll revise it and give you another pitch. Okay. Once you sign off on it and you like the idea, I'll move to the next checkpoint, which is I'm going to write the headline and the lead, the first 500 words or something. Okay. That's the next checkpoint. I'm going to show you what I wrote. Okay. You're going to give me feedback on it. If you like it, I'm going to move on. If you don't like it, I'll change it to whatever you want. Okay. And then the next checkpoint after that is the rough draft. Okay. You see how this kind of checkpoint system protects both the client, alleviates their fear, and it's good for you too, because you don't want to go work for a month and hand the client something that they're like, what? This is not what I asked for. Please rewrite this.
And this can work in really any project. Like if you think about a autoresponder series, they want 10 emails. You do the same thing. You do your research, you outline kind of 10 different ideas. You show them the outline. They're cool with it. You write 2 emails, check in with them, show them, make sure that you're not totally off track from what they expected. And then, yeah, you can do that. I mean, then you can maybe do the next 8 or you could do the next 3 and check in again. So yeah, it's a way better system than just going into a hole, cranking out 10,000 words and tossing it on their desk and hoping they like it.
Yeah. Does everyone understand? That was a very important, like this is going to help you a lot. Everyone cool with this? Okay, cool. Yeah. I see nodding heads. Okay, cool. Okay. And communicating that to the client in your way to the close, okay, will help you a lot because the client will be like, I like that.
Yeah. And it's nice to show them you have a little bit of a process. Like, here's how I work. Here's how I work with people. It makes you seem professional. Like you have a checkpoint system because professionals do.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh, please give me work. How do you work? I will do whatever kind of work you do. What's your system? It's like, no, like that's.
Yeah, we want to avoid the will write for food. You don't want to be in that category.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Okay, so we understand this. We understand our big levers here. We understand our pitfalls of what the client is afraid of. How do we actually go about the interaction? Okay, so I've wrote down basically, what your steps are when you're messaging a client. Initially off the bat, you want to tell them who you are, where you saw their request, or why you're contacting them. How do you know they need copy? And then you want to include a little bit that shows them that you looked at their website or their copy or their landing page and you've thought about how you can help them. Okay. The whole frame of the interaction is, how can I help them? How do I show them that I can help them? Okay. And then I like these 1 to 2 diagnosing questions, like a doctor. What do I mean by diagnosing questions? It means when you walk into the doctor's office and you sit down, the doctor doesn't just come in and say, like, he doesn't just look at you and he's like, okay, here, take these pills, and then he leaves. Okay. You know, if you were to walk into a doctor's office and he would do that to you, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, the guy didn't even look at me. Okay. What does he actually do is he comes in and he says, oh, does your throat hurt? Like, tell me a little bit about your problem. He looks in your ear. He does the knee tap thingy. Okay. He looks around and he tries to, and then he's like, okay, you have laryngitis, you know, here's a bottle for that. Okay. He understands your problem. He diagnoses the problem, and then he gives you the solution of the problem. Your job is to do the same exact thing to the client. You're going to ask him a couple questions to understand his problem. Okay. You're going to diagnose the problem. Okay. And then you're going to show him how you are going to provide him the solution for the problem. Okay. Most clients are like, oh, I have a control that's fatiguing. Okay. And you're going to ask them, like, okay, how long has it been running? Where has the traffic been coming from? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, boom. You kind of understand it a little bit. You diagnose the problem. Some clients will just go ahead and just tell you everything. Okay, great. Now you understand the problem. Okay, diagnose it. Okay, cool. It sounds like you need a new front end with a new angle. And it sounds like all the other competing products use XYZ angle. I know that because I went out and I did my research. Okay. I think a new angle like XYZ would work better for, you know, this project. Boom. Okay. Diagnose the problem, provide the solution, just like in a sales letter. Okay. Other questions? Have you worked with a copywriter before? What was that like? Austin, you put this in. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so this is just information gathering. When you're sizing up a new client, you just want, you know, really in any negotiation, you always want to just be getting as much information as you can. And this is a super important question because it'll set the baseline for what, you know, what their experience is working with a copywriter. Was it a disaster? Why was it a disaster? Did they like that person? Why did they like that person? So, you know, it's almost like you're on a first date and you're like, I mean, that would actually be a terrible question to ask on the first date. So who have you dated in the past and how did that go?
I don't know if it's a horrible question to ask on a date.
Yeah, in the right context, it might be fine, but you're really just digging. You're like figuring out what do they like, what do they not like, what's their experience working with a copywriter, and how can you make that even better than they had before?
Usually if you get someone who's like, man, I've hired so many copywriters, but they all turn out to be assholes and awful. Usually
that's someone you want to usually avoid.
Yeah, that's something you want to be very wary of. It's kind of like you meet someone like, I don't know why, but all my past boyfriends have just been abusive alcoholics. And you're like, So, but if in general they have good experiences or whatever, or like run-of-the-mill average or medium type experiences, usually a good sign. Okay. And the number one goal of the entire first messaging interaction is get them on the phone. Okay. Get them on the phone is a closer step to closing the deal.
Yeah. And that I would recommend that most of the time. Sometimes clients will be finicky. You can't predict exactly what they're going to do. Some people will be super responsive via email, and you can use all of the same tactics in the written form. But I will say it's much better to get somebody on the phone, and it's just more of a human connection. You can develop some rapport, and you can spot more red flags if they're acting weird, or, you know, voice intonation is super powerful. I wouldn't recommend a Skype call like this, a video call, because I feel like it just it can be distracting, and like I tend to sometimes get nervous on these calls, which they could probably see on video. But you know, that's ultimately up to you. I have done that before, but it's usually just an audio call is what's worked for us and our students.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind video calls, but I have done like a lot of video before. So that kind of depends, I think, on your level of comfort.
Yeah.
Okay. The middle of the interaction, I kind of listed the same sort of stuff. Like I listed some questions you can ask to get a better understanding of the copy request or the need. Once you feel like you have enough of these, the next biggest thing is just like move the logistics forward. Okay. Don't be afraid to start talking about price. One good question is like, what were you thinking for your budget for this? Okay. You can ask a question, what kind of budget they were looking for this. Okay. If some clients will counter basically with like, well, how much do you charge? Okay. And you don't want to get stuck in the whole like, well, what's your budget? Well, what do you charge? Well, what's your budget? Well, what do you charge? At that point, just throw a number out there. Okay. And the number you throw out there, you want to kind of, how do you come up with this number, right? This is a big question we get. Think about how big this client is. Okay. If it's a big client, okay. So the factors that go into your pricing include basically like how much experience do you have, how many controls do you have, okay? And if you're starting out, then it's lower, okay? And how much can the client pay? If the client's bigger, they can pay more. If the client's smaller, they can pay less, okay? So it's basically a combination of those two things, okay? So if you're just starting out, 30 to 50 bucks per email or ad is right around the starter rate. As soon as you get 2 to 3 projects into that, you want to immediately increase that to 50 to 70 to 100 per. Okay. And the more experience you have, always be raising your rates. Okay. A lot of people have problems raising their rates because they don't feel like they're worth it. As soon as you do a couple projects, like even if you don't feel like it, raise them anyway, is our advice to students, because pretty much everybody has that block. Oh, like, I don't feel like I'm worth that much. Well, once you've done a couple projects, you are worth that much, okay? Once you do a couple projects, it means you're more valuable than the people who've done fewer projects. And all it takes is one client to say, okay, I'll pay you that much. And boom, now your internal worth level will rise to that number, okay? The end of the interaction, basically, I advise usually starting off with as low commitment of a project as possible. Just say like 2 emails, okay, two ads, or just 500 words of copy, or a headline to split test.
Yeah, and you can turn this on them too. You can say, hey, just so we figure out if we're a fit for each other, why don't we just start this with something super easy, straightforward. I'll write you 2 emails. If you like them, we can talk about how to keep working together. If not, no worries. It's all about a low barrier offer and removing the risk for them, especially on the first interaction. And once you have an email and they like it, it's so much easier to get a bigger gig. But you shouldn't focus on a huge project from the outset. And it's less risky for you too, because you could be working for a psycho. And you know, with 2 emails, you can get a real sense for what they're like and not be betting the farm.
Yep, great. And then once it's time, you have to, the more comfortable you are talking about the money, the easier it is to get hired. If you start talking about money and the client can see that you're starting to get nervous, it just means that you're desperate for the money. Okay. So I guess there's not a whole way I can teach you to be more comfortable talking about money other than just do it and try to pretend to be as calm as possible.
Yeah. And it's fine. Like you're not going to be Leonardo DiCaprio and Wolf of Wall Street on your first like 10 calls. It takes practice, and it's a muscle that you build. But with this as kind of an outline, it'll help you a ton. It'll save you a ton of the time that it took me to learn this. Try and practice. I mean, you can practice that. You can literally practice this stuff to a wall, to your friend, to your cat, like whatever. And I would recommend it. But yeah, towards the end, like just think about, you know, the first deal, you want to make them feel like they're getting a deal, the risk removal stuff. I mentioned this earlier, my normal rate for an email is 75, but for these first two, I can do 2 for 50, and just practice saying that a few times before the call. And that'll help you out a lot. But yeah, the real answer is practice. And if you don't if you don't feel like this is about to end in a deal, you can say like what I have in the B section. And I did this probably about a third of my new clients. I did this way. It is better to do on the phone because you've built this urgency and this, this desire on the phone, and it's great to get that on the spot. But sometimes it doesn't always work out, and that's fine. And you can say, hey, I'd like to, do a little more market research, get a look at your products, kind of get a lay of the land, and then I can put together, a custom proposal on how we might proceed. And then that gives you, a little chance to like breathe and stop sweating, and send them a proposal, and we can show you how to do that as well. I think there's some in the Trello, but I'll make a note on the proposals. But then you can kind of lay it out for them, and it's like a mini sales letter. And we can show you how to do it in a way that makes it super easy for them to say yes to.
Yeah, and I think my final concluding thought is just like, do as many of these as you can. I talked to Chris Orzakowski, who actually, I didn't tell you this, Austin, but like over the weekend in Florida, I talked to Chris Orzakowski, and he told me a little bit about how he mentored you back in the day. And he said that Chris's whole thing when he's mentoring people is like, look, I've done this, I've gone through this, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it. You just have to do it. Okay. And the people that win are just people who go out there and they do it and they do it and they do it and they do it. Okay. And they send out, as many like 6-10 proposals a day. Okay. That hunger, if that's there, you're going to get work. Okay. And if you keep doing that, it's inevitable that you get work. Okay. And he said one of the things that he loved about Austin was that Austin just picked that up and he ran with it. And that's what I would like for you guys. Like, look, if you want work, it's there. I'm posting stuff. I'm posting job offers that I've come through our network in the thing all the time. You've got that. You've got Facebook groups. You've got Upwork. Okay. A lot of you have Upwork. I know Roman doesn't, but there's plenty of other opportunities. Those posts, apply to them. Okay. There's no reason not to. Okay. Apply to them, apply, and you will get something.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand it's not the most comfortable feeling. It's scary for sure. But if you just focus on doing the work, getting feedback to improve the work, and just doing your best and being friendly to work with, nobody's going to be mad. People are going to be happy to work with you because you're going to be in the rare few who bust their ass and are pleasant to work with, and are on time, as long as you're on time. So yeah, I think that was a pretty solid lesson. If there's any specific follow-up points, we got a bit of time before the first call slot. So if anybody wants to chime in, or if there's anything that was confusing.
Does anyone have any questions?
For like a lot of the leads you've been posting, or for pretty much all leads, I'm guessing, then we need to submit samples. Then doing the research and writing the sample, do you write a new one for each one of these leads? Do you reuse like your sample from a different lead and send that off as well?
Yeah, you can reuse them.
Yeah, just use what you have. Right now, the 5 emails you have for Rick's product are solid, and that should be
that should be a sample staple that you send out to everybody.
That should be your sample staple that you send.
Even for like unrelated niches, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. For now, I mean, it's not, of course it's ideal to have a perfect, copy to niche match when you're applying, but unfortunately that's not always the reality. I mean, Derek talks a lot about this, like you just got to sell what you got. And when you guys are early, you're selling that you're scrappy, you're going to work hard, you're going to do a lot of research and, over deliver and figure it out. And a lot of people like that.
Okay.
Cool.
So like there was one, I think it was the gig from Peter Monson, who said he was like looking for juniors interested in the financial space. But like, what is the definition of a junior?
You are a junior.
Yeah.
Okay. So not like someone who's sort of been doing it for at least a year, but just hasn't.
No.
Okay.
Understand that that's the little voice in your head, and everyone's got it, that's saying you're not good enough for this. That's always
Tom.
That's
if you wanna get some samples for finance, we can literally do that in like the next 3 days at the speed you're going. So like you will be a junior in the financial space after you write 4 ads
great opportunity
or emails.
Yeah, I mean that is my goal by the end of this, to be down that path.
Tom, I have literally like 6 to 7 leads that we got at this event that I have flyers for that I need to just take screenshots of and upload them into Slack so you guys can send your samples into them. These are people that literally came to Copy Chief Live and handed out free swag because they're desperate for copywriters. So yeah.
It's super hard to find good copywriters. I guess maybe it's not, there's just an undersupply. Like there's just a growing need for this skill and not enough to fill it. So that makes you an attractive asset.
I have to write that down, that I'm going to upload all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, good question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, in terms of like the inner game of copy or doing this client work, like I think a little bit of the fear is that you'll take on a project and then you feel like you're in over your head. So I'm just curious, does it ever actually happen where you take on some client work and you realize at some point like, oh shit, I don't know if I can actually do this, and then like how you deal with that situation?
Yeah, that happened to me. That actually like the first big project I got was this guy selling an info music product, like how to learn guitar. And I said I would do his sales page. I said I would do his email, set up his MailChimp. That was the big mistake. I didn't know shit about MailChimp. And I set it up, but there was like an error and this, the deliverability was bad. And it turned out I didn't do my due diligence either. His leads were like 13-year-old Philippine teenagers who didn't actually buy anything. He like bought some bad leads. So there was a lot of red flags. One of the first being that he wanted to pay me $14 an hour, which I gladly accepted. So yeah, a lot of the red flags we talked about today, like,
Sorry, Austin, I think we lost you for a little bit.
Yeah.
My answer is you're going to have projects like that. You can't avoid them.
Yeah.
It's good.
Sorry about
those
that,
projects
guys.
Are good for you.
And so I kind of left them hanging. So yeah, I delivered a sales page. It was really good for the price that he paid. I had the emails, and it was really just like the software that he was using was a little bit messy, and he was not happy. He was pissed. And I just told him, I'm like, hey man, I literally did the very best that I could on this. I'm sorry. I think with a little more time, I can maybe fix the MailChimp thing, but like, I understand if you want your money back, I will give it to you. Like I said in my proposal. But I also, I wanting my money, I said, hey, listen, I built you assets here. I built you a sales funnel that once you figure out the underlying bugs will still be valuable, and you can go use that. So, just keep that in mind, basically. And he didn't, even though he was pissed, he did not ask for his money back. We went our separate ways. I was just honest with him that you know, I should have done a better job on the MailChimp stuff. And that was literally the worst thing that ever happened in my entire freelancing career in terms of like angry clients. And it wasn't that bad, one. And two, there's a lot of red flags I just didn't know how to spot that you guys will know how to spot.
Even if you guys land something that's quote unquote bad or like a bad experience or whatever, that's still good overall. Understand that if you like get into a project that you're in over your head and you have no fucking clue what you're doing, that's good because it means you're about to grow in knowledge by a huge crap load.
Yeah. Ning, you did a project with David Deutsch that was a bit over your head.
Right. So when I first got to San Diego, I had a project with David Deutsch. You guys have heard of David Deutsch?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a freaking legend, right? And everything I sent in, he was just like, "Oh, this is not good enough." Red, marks all over. Have to rewrite. Okay. I missed that deadline by about a month plus. It just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. I had multiple anxiety attacks just because it felt like nothing I ever did was good enough. Finally finish it after like 3 months of hell. And then the package won. And then I look back a year and a half later, even at Copy Chief Live, I walked up to David Deutsch and I was like, you know what? I was super stressed out during that project and I had such a miserable time during it, but now I'm glad that I did it because I had learned so much from that project. So thank you for that project. And he was like, yeah, that was great, blah, 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 blah. And we were chummy. And yeah, so that's a lesson. I mean, it's going to be scary. Jump in and do it anyways.
Hell yeah. All right. Do we have Tom up first?
Yeah, Tom. So we getting into the individual sections now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So